here we are again. It's always such a pleasure. Hello, welcome to Dragonkeeper19600 reads Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. We are at Chapter 4, The Keeper of the Keys. Spoilers, this is the one where Harry starts a fire. Well, not Hagrid starts a fire. It all makes sense. Okay, here we go. Keeper of the Keys. Boom! They knocked again. Dudley jerked awake. Where's the cannon? He said stupidly. There was a crash behind them and Uncle Vernon came skidding into the room. He was holding a rifle in his hands. Now they knew what had been in the long, thin package he had brought with them. Who's there? He shouted. I warn you. I'm armed. There was a pause. Then, smash! The door was hit with such force that it swung clean off its hinges and with a deafening crash landed flat on the floor. But this kind of thing happens to Hagrid a lot. A giant of a man was standing in the doorway. His face was almost completely hidden by a long, shaggy mane of hair and a wild, tangled beard. I said beard. Happened again! But you could make out his eyes, glinting like black beetles under all that hair. The giant squeezed his way into the hut, stooping so that his head just brushed the ceiling. He bent down, picked up the door, and fitted it easily back into its frame. The noise of the storm outside dropped a little. He turned to look at them all. Couldn't make us a cup of tea, could you? It's not been an easy journey. He strode over to the sofa where Dudley sat frozen with fear. Budge up, you great lump, said the stranger. Dudley squeaked and ran to hide behind his mother, who was crouching, terrified, behind Uncle Vernon. And here's Harry, said the giant. Harry looked up into the fierce, wild, shadowy face and saw that the beetle eyes were crinkled in a smile. Last time I saw you was only a baby, said the giant. You look a lot like your dad, but you've got your mom's eyes. This is the first in a very long string of people who are all going to make that exact same observation. For those of you unfamiliar with the series. Seriously, everyone and their mother points this out. I don't know. Okay. Uncle Vernon made a funny rasping noise. I demand that you leave at once, sir, he said. Sir, he's so British. You are breaking and entering. Ah, shut up, Dursley, you great prune, said the giant. He reached over the back of the sofa, jerked the gun out of Uncle Vernon's hands, bent into a knot as easily as if it had been made of rubber, and threw it into a corner of the room. Uncle Vernon made another funny noise, like a mouse being trodden on. I will try to replicate that noise now. That was that. Anyway, Harry, said the giant, turning his back on the Dursleys, very happy birthday to you. Got summit for you here. I might have sat on it at some point, but it'll taste all right. From an inside pocket of his black overcoat, he pulled a slightly squash box. Harry opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a large, sticky chocolate cake with Happy Birthday, Harry, written on it in green icing. Harry looked up at the giant. He meant to say thank you, but the words got lost on the way to his mouth, and what he said instead was, Who are you? The giant chuckled. True, I haven't introduced myself. Rubus Hagrid. Hagrid. Keeper of Keys and Grounds at Hogwarts. He held out an enormous hand and shook Harry's whole arm. What about that tea, eh? Then, eh? Sorry, he said, rubbing his hands together. I'd not say no, just somewhat stronger, if you've got it, mind. His eyes fell on the empty grate with the shriveled chip bags in it, and he snorted. He bent down over the fireplace. They couldn't see what he was doing, but when he drew back a second later, there was a roaring fire there. It filled the whole damp hut with flickering light, and Harry felt the warmth wash over him as though he'd sunk into a hot bath. The giant sat back down on the sofa, which sagged under his weight, and began taking all sorts of things out of the pockets of his coat. A copper kettle, a squashy packet of sausages, a poker, a teapot, several chip mugs, and a bottle of some amber liquid, which he took a swig from before starting to make tea. Should never have to drink bridge tea sober. That was a joke, by the way. I like tea. A lot. Just a joke. Soon the hut was full of the sound and smell of sizzling sausage. Nobody said a thing while the giant was working, but as he slid the first 6 fat, juicy, slightly burnt sausages from the poker, Dudley fidgeted a little. Uncle Vernon said sharply, Don't touch anything he gives you, Dudley. The giant chuckled darkly. Your great puddin' of a son don't need fattening any more, Dudley, don't worry. He passed the sausages to Harry, who was so hungry and never tasted anything so wonderful, but he still couldn't take his eyes off the giant. Finally, as nobody seemed about to explain anything, he said, I'm sorry, I still really don't know who you are. The giant took a gulp of tea and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Call me Hagrid, he said. Everyone does. And like I told you, I'm Keeper of Keys at Hogwarts. You know all about Hogwarts, of course. No, said Harry. Hagrid looked shocked. Sorry. Harry said quickly. Sorry, barked Hagrid, turning to stare at the Dursleys, who shrank back in the shadows. It's them that should be sorry. I knew you wouldn't get in your letters, but I never thought you wouldn't even know about Hogwarts, for crying out loud. Didn't you never wonder your parents learned it all? Oh, what? Asked Harry. Oh, what? Hagrid thundered. Now, wait just 1 second. He leapt to his feet. In his anger, he seemed to fill the whole hut. No, this would have broken the tension a little bit. Or maybe it would have actually heightened it if Hagrid had hit his head in the ceiling when he stood up. That actually might have intimidated them more, now that I think of it. The Dursleys were cowering against the wall from the giant man that just abruptly stood up in anger. Do you mean to tell me, he growled the Dursley, that this boy knows nothing about anything? Harry thought this was going a bit far. He had been to school, after all, and his marks weren't bad. I know some things, he said. I can, do math and stuff. Just something a lot of witches and wizards can't do, I'm willing to bet. But Hagrid simply waved his hand and said, about our world, I mean. Your world. My world. Your parents' world. What world? Hagrid looked as if he was about to explode. Dursley! He boomed. Uncle Vernon, who had gone very pale, whispered something that sounded like Wimble Wimble. Wimble Wimble. I love that word. Wimble Wimble. That should be a meme. Hagrid stared wildly at Harry. But you must know your mom and dad, he said. I mean, they're famous. You're famous. What? My mom and dad weren't famous, were they? You don't know. You don't know. Hagrid ran his fingers through his hair, fixing Harry with a bewildered stare. No comment on the rhyme there. You don't know what you are? He said finally. Uncle Vernon suddenly found his voice. Stop, he commanded. Stop right there, sir. I forbid you to tell this boy anything. I love the way it gratuitously adds sir to many sentences. I got news for you, sir. Sorry. Okay, here we go. A braver man than Vernon Dursley would have quailed under the furious look Hagrid now gave him. When Hagrid spoke, his every syllable troubled with rage. You never told him what was in the letter Dumbledore left for him. I was there. I stumbled Dumbledore, leave it. Dursley, and you've kept it from him all these years? Kept what from me? Said Harry eagerly. Stop, I forbid you, yelled Uncle Vernon in panic. Aunt Petunia gave a gasp of horror. Go boil your heads, both of you, said Hagrid. Harry, you're a wizard. There was a silence inside the hut. Only the sea and the whistling wind could be heard. I'm a what? Gasped Harry. Wizard, of course, said Hagrid, sitting back down on the sofa, which groaned and sank even lower. And a thumping good un, I'd say, once you've been trained up a bit. With a mum and dad like yours, what else would you be? And I reckon it's about time you read your letter. Harry stretched out his hand at last to take the yellowish envelope, addressed in emerald green to Mr. H. Potter, the floor. Hut on the rock, the sea. How specific. This is really wonderful address skills here. Okay. He pulled out the letter and read, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Headmaster Albus Dumbledore. Order of Merlin, First Class. Grand Sorcerer, Chief Warlock. Supreme Mugwump. International Confederation of Wizards. Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Questions exploded inside Harry's head like fireworks, and he couldn't decide which to ask first. After a few minutes, he stammered, What does it mean, they await my owl? Galloping Gorgons, that reminds me, said Hagrid, clapping a hand to his forehead with enough force to knock over a cart horse. And from yet another pocket inside his overcoat, he pulled an owl. A real, live, rather ruffled-looking owl, a long quill, and a roll of parchment. With his tongue between his teeth, he scribbled a note that Harry could read upside down. Dear Professor Dumbledore, given Harry's letter. Taking him to buy his things tomorrow. Weather's horrible. Hope you're well. Hagrid. Hagrid rolled up the note, gave it to the owl, which clamped it in its beak, went to the door, and threw the owl out into the store. Then he came back and sat down, as though this was as normal as talking on the telephone.